Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the nice introduction, and I want to welcome everyone in our session. Amy and I will be joined during our role-playing situation by my husband, Robin, who will replace Lynn, who, like Chris mentioned, was in an accident earlier this week. So I'm going to let Amy get started with a quick check-in activity for all of us. Amy?
Good. Good morning, everyone. We would like to have everybody take a moment to check in with themselves to see how they're doing this morning. Here it is, 11 o'clock, virtual conference, partway through the New Mexico Association for the Gifted virtual conference. So what kind of landscape would describe how you're doing right now? And we're going to put you in breakout rooms so that you can share with one other person and take a moment to really reflect. So what kind of landscape would describe how you're doing? And when the other person, so you'll have, a few minutes to share with each other. When someone else is sharing, just listen. Don't ask like, oh, why do you feel that way? Because hopefully the person will eventually share with you how they're doing. Because emotions and feelings don't just come out of the blue, they actually have causes. So use the opportunity to listen really with your whole heart. And then when it's your turn to speak with your whole heart. So Kathy and I'll model, shall we, Kath?
Sure, you
Kathy,
bet.
what landscape would describe? Yeah, what landscape would describe how you're doing this morning?
Well, actually, I'm looking out my window and I see red and yellow and green. I see trees changing and I see the bright blue New Mexico sky behind it. And this really is a metaphor for me today because it's moving, it's exciting, and it's beautiful. And I'm just really glad to see all the different people in this conference. I was in some of the sessions earlier, and we have close to 100 people, I think. So that is the landscape that I'm feeling like today. What about you, Amy?
I am feeling like an ocean, even though I'm very far from the ocean up here in the mountains. But like when you look out over the sea, you see a very, very big horizon and lots of this in this particular day, the sun, but there are clouds and it's sort of choppy. I already rushed down to the hardware store to pick up some tough stuff foam for my children's project building this house on our property and, dealt with 6 things having to do with Thailand and like it's a lot going on. I'm excited to be here and I want to get grounded. I want to be present and grounded with all of you and in New Mexico where we are. So I have some navigation skills that I will use to help myself be really present. Thank you for asking, Kathy. So that's a
Okay.
basic idea, yeah, of how you can, check in with one another, with yourself first, and then with one another.
Okay, so Chris, if you will put us all in breakout rooms, just really literally for 2 to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. Now, if somebody's in a breakout room and somebody else doesn't show up, because I know on these conferences that maybe people aren't right here, then just take yourself out of the breakout room, come back to the main room where I will stay, and you can debrief, you can share your ideas with me. So go ahead, Chris. Chris, probably that is probably enough time. So why don't you give them the thing to leave?
All right, they have the 60-second notice went up. So
Awesome. Now, as we get on and as you guys come back, if anybody didn't get a chance to share your landscape, go ahead and unmute yourself and do so right now while we're waiting for everybody else to come back in. Okay. Okay, do we think everybody's back in now? Amy, are you around?
I'm here, Kath. I'm here,
Okay.
Kathy.
Great, great. Again, a check-in, I think, is something that we always like to do, even when we are any topic or anything that we're doing. But the whole reason for this topic is why using mini chess and combining it with social emotional development or learning. And over my years as teaching, I have found it is probably one of the best ways to really get to kids, especially those from diverse backgrounds who are very reticent to speak to their emotions. And basically, we have found that chess is one of those lifetime skills that you can bring anything into. You can tie chess into math. You can tie chess into literature. You can tie chess into social studies. You can tie chess into engineering and planning, all of the STEM activities. Plus, at the same time, it really allows us as teachers to look into the heads of kids and see what kind of behaviors that they have, how they deal with competition, how they plan ahead. And it is such a rich, basic game to play in the history of our world that it really gives you a lot of bang for your bucks. And I know I've heard this term, and a lot of you have heard the term of low floor and tall ceilings, where we want gifted kids to be able to go far. Well, what we did, and Lynn Zupans was going to talk about this, but about 40 years ago, she was teaching at Nabaani Elementary in Bloomfield, New Mexico, and she was a special ed teacher. And suddenly, the buzz was all around the community that she was playing chess with her special ed kids. Well, I was at another school, and when she left and the next year I moved to Nabaani, I took over the chess club, which started with the special ed students at Nabaani, not the gifted special ed students, but the kids at the other end of the spectrum. Well, I basically took her format of using mini games. And what mini games are is using some of the pieces, starting in their original place on the board, and playing a very short game. Because those of us that don't play chess, and I am not a huge chess player, but it's an easy way to teach kids, and it's also an easy way to, in a short amount of time, get something accomplished. So by creating it simpler, more kids can begin at the low floor, but yet we all know that chess has a very, very tall ceiling that can last for most of the lives of kids and into adults. So basically that was the reason and the experience that we had. So now, how are we going to combine that social emotional learning with the game of chess? And kind of to explain the social and emotional part, I'm going to let Amy take over a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. When Kathy first asked me about this, I thought, well, social and emotional learning is really integrated in everything we do. It's part of being human. How to apply it directly to chess has been really interesting and frankly, very easy, in fact. Kath, will you put up the slide about with the model things? So I've been working in the field of emotional intelligence and social and emotional learning for almost 20 years now. In fact, part of my story was with Kathy when I first moved back to New Mexico. Kathy and I grew up together in Santa Fe, and then I was away almost 30 years. And when I moved back to New Mexico in the early 2000, Kathy asked me to come over and speak to her teachers of the gifted. I said, well, what do you want me to talk about, Kathy? She said, oh, anything, whatever you'd like to talk about. So I said, well, I'd like to talk about emotional intelligence and what that means. Dan Goleman's book had come out about five years earlier, and I'd spoken some in various situations about it. I remember the teachers, there were 20 of them, and all but one, 19 of the 20, felt immediately knew and recognized that their gifted children with high IQs and high potential were not able to learn math, learn reading, etc., not for a lack of capacity, but rather for a lack of attention. And because they were so burdened by social and emotional problems for which they had no language, no forum, and no time to discuss. So 19 of the 20 were immediately convinced, and I didn't need to convince them, I needed to say, how do we do that? Well, the last 20 years have seen an enormous growth in the field of emotional intelligence and social emotional learning. The relationship between the two is that social and emotional learning is the term we use to describe the processes through which we go in order to develop self-awareness, social skills, relationship skills, decision-making skills. And so they are the processes, and there are many processes. There are many good curricula out there. I highly recommend you look, if you're interested in the field, look into both the CASEL website, CASEL, it's the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. I also highly recommend a book that just came out about a year ago by Mike Brackett called Permission to Feel. It's the first time I feel like I've been able to really recommend a single book that describes the components and all the research and the findings. He's also an extremely funny person, wonderful person. He's in person just like he is in public. He does a lot of TED Talks. He's leading right now a book club on Permission to Feel. So over these years, there have been lots of models, and it's been fun to be a pioneer in the field. I've come up with this model that you see before you. So awareness, intentions, and choice. So an awareness of what's going on. So going back to chess, that is one thing you really have to do when you're there on a chessboard, is you have to be very aware of what is going on. You have to look at the pieces. You have to see where the other pieces are. You have to scope it all out. What could happen if I do this? You have to be very intentional.
Yeah.
As you make your choices. And yeah, here's the awareness. Yeah. So awareness can have to do with identity, with becoming very skillful in recognizing the interconnections between thoughts, feelings, and actions. Consciousness, mindfulness. We're talking a lot about mindfulness now. That means stopping and intentionally taking a moment to be present.
Amy?
It has to do with patterns. Yeah, Chris.
Amy, what was Mike's last name?
I'm sorry, what?
This conference I'm supposed to be attending.
What is
Not really
Sorry, Chris, say that again.
much to anything today.
Sorry about that. What was
author.
the author?
Yes, thank you.
Author's name
Mark.
again?
Yes. Thank you. It's Mark, and Mark spelled with a C, and then Brackett, B-R-A-C-K-E-T-T, Brackett. And he's the director of the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University. He's a good line into lots of the very best research, teaching, and it's a lovely, lovely book. Tells personal stories. It's a very appealing and compelling book, easy to read, and summarizes nicely. So yeah, so an awareness. So how can we be aware? Okay, what is going on right now? What are the different realities of different people? Yeah, Kath.
Okay, do you want me to go back to the intentions, or just tell me what slide you want me to go on, Aim?
Let's go to the main model. Go back to the previous one, Kath. Kathy and I have known each other since we were in 3rd grade, so we have a long familiarity. So yeah, so the awareness is like being able to look at the book, looking at the, chessboard, and being able to recognize, okay, what's going on here? As teachers, we walk into a room or we go onto a Zoom room and we can look, okay, what's going on here? How are people doing? Who's sitting by whom? Who's taken their coat off? Who's still got their coat on? What's the faces? Being able to read people's faces. So we're constantly checking out, and if we can become more conscious of doing that. The reason for the check-in is to become aware of self and others. Aware of the emotions, aware of the state of mind, because that has a huge amount to do with how we then proceed through our day. So then being able to have intentions, like what is my intention? So a child could have an intention in playing chess of making a friend, getting to know somebody. It could be to win. It could be to learn a new skill. So we could have many, many different intentions, and it's important that we clarify our intentions as a teacher, as a group. You know, when we're going to interact with a child, maybe we have to discipline a child or correct a child. What's our intention? Is it to make the child, show the child who's boss? Is it to make the behavior stop? Is it to create a relationship with the child? Is it to teach the child? Is it to shame the child? Is it to build a closer relationship with the child? What is our intention? And if we can go into every interaction with a lot of clarity about what our intention is, we tend to have fewer regrets and have to apologize less, and we tend to feel better about ourselves. So again, on the chess setting, what's my intention here? Make a friend, have fun, learn chess, beat that guy, show off, learn something new. So yeah, intentions have to do with this: empathy, reflecting, taking another person's perspective, aligning our actions with our better selves, having a purpose, being clear about our calling, and then choice, that 3rd slide. And choice, that has to do with agency. Being able to feel like you have a choice in your life, that you can navigate your emotions, you can think consequentially, you can be intrinsically motivated, you can determine your own outcome of your life, you can be optimistic, you can choose to be optimistic, a sense of self-efficacy. So I watched yesterday the 4-hour virtual conference of Castle. It's their 2nd one. Last year, I actually flew from Thailand to the United States, to Chicago, specifically for that conference. It's so reinforcing. The body of people engaged in this is growing all over the world. They talked a lot about the importance in SEL of helping children develop a sense of identity, of agency, and of belonging. And I am, as a teacher of teachers, I'm going to keep those in mind: our identity, our sense of agency, and our sense of belonging. And how do we create schools in which all 3 of those are constantly nurtured? So Castle's now really identifying that as their forefront skills in schools. And especially when we talk about social justice and equity, how does every child's identity get to blossom and feel welcomed in school? How do we help them feel that they belong? And how do we help them develop a sense of agency rather than being passive victims in their lives? So now tying it back to the chess. Thank you.
So again, what does it look like? Well, when we were in real schools, my experience is, as each year I would get more and more kids wanting to join chess club. So at first, and in small schools, I would hold chess club in a library 1 day a week, where teachers would let kids leave their classroom. They'd come to chess club. I would have boards, pieces, and a mini game setting out in front of them, and they would play. But let's talk about the emotions right here. Amy, you want to lead us with this?
Yeah, what emotions do you see on the children's faces? I love this photo.
So if you will unmute yourself and shout out, I know it's kind of hard with lots of people, but if you see a particular emotion in one of these kids, and these were kids at Blanco Elementary in Bloomfield, New Mexico, go ahead and share something that you notice.
So we have three responses in chat right now. We have intensity, determine, and concentration.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. I also, the gentleman in the middle on the back line, I know because I remember this instance very clearly. He was losing very badly, and I think he knew that he was about to, get checkmated. And you could just see him dropping his head and rubbing his forehead a little bit like, uh-oh, what's going to happen next? So those are some emotions that just simple body language can tell you a lot about how kids are feeling. But in order to see this really in action, we are going to go to the next stage and we are going to role play an actual game. And the first game that I would play with kindergartners, with middle school, or with anybody that doesn't know how to play chess is the pawn parade. And what you do is you set up the board with the pawns in their regular position. And to win this game, it's a very short game. You're going to win it by getting more pawns to your opponent's back row. Now, those of you that are chess players, we're not going to get to queening the pawn. That's something totally different. It's not applicable in this game. But then we also have to talk about how the pawns move, that they move one square forward, and they capture one square diagonally forward, but on their very first move, they can move 2 squares up. So we're going to role play. I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to stop this kind of sharing. I'm going to bring up the sharing on how we use our basically telephone, and I'll show you it at the end, to make a document camera so kids can play virtual chess also. Since Lynn's not here, my partner today is going to be my husband, Robin. So while I get this set up, but this is the role we're going to take. I am going to be a second grader, and so is Robin. So, and then Amy is going to be the teacher. So just wait here for a minute while I get the phone set up. And no, I don't need communication from Target. And I do need to put in my code really quickly. And you'll always see that you get permission to trust your phone. And okay, so Amy, we are second graders and this is our game. So we are pretending that we're kids and you are the teacher, okay? Robin is my partner and he is white and he always gets to move first.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Kathy.
Hi. Okay, now, am I supposed to say the moves, teacher, when I move like this? I kind of forget. Am I supposed to say like 4B or B4?
Do you like to? Would you rather do it that way, Kathy?
Well,
What's B4?
What's B4? Well, it's kind of like on that Excel thing that you made me with columns, but there's the B right there and 4 is right here, but I wasn't B4, I was 5. So I'm going to be E5. So I moved my black piece to E5.
Okay. And do you like to explain it that way, Kathy?
I guess, but really I don't like to even talk about it. I do like to talk, but my partner, he doesn't like to talk much, so he just moves.
Okay. Robin, how do you feel about naming where you're moving?
It seems like I don't understand it so well.
Okay. Okay. So is it okay with you, Kathy, if we just play where people just move their pieces without describing what square they're in?
Sure. Okay, your turn. Come on, hurry up.
Okay.
Ha, look. Hey, I gotcha.
I got you back.
Oh no. I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's how that happens, huh?
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I can't. Can I move this one here?
That's my piece.
Oh no, I'm black. Okay. Well, I can go here because I'm going to get over to to the side. Oh no, but oh no, I shouldn't have moved that.
I get it, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna run down my other pieces. Oh no, can I take that back?
Yes.
Oh, good, thank you. Is that allowable,
No.
teacher, to take back a rule? I mean, a move?
I think that as long as the two of you agree on the rules, we do have rules in chess, but if you two are playing and it's more pleasant to play with that exception, I guess that's okay.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay. Now, if I go here, I don't want to go there. You might give me again. I'm just going to move one.
Hey, Kathy,
Yeah.
we had a question. Do you have a virtual interactive chessboard, or do you tend to use the physical boards?
Actually, and I'm going to take off my hat right now, physical boards are the best, okay, because you have that tactile situation. There are, and in our resources, we're going to give you all kinds of virtual boards where you can play each other online and things like that. But we're going really low tech as much as possible. And the reason for that is the kids, and sorry about that, basically the kids that we teach, a lot of them don't have the technical situations with unlimited internet access and very strong internet. You do need a lot of strong internet if you are going to do a lot of chess playing on real chess sites. But my purpose for playing chess with kids was so I could get better relationships with them also. Okay, so I'm gonna
more
just
about
stop
that,
this right now a little bit. Amy, you want to mention some things?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Kathy, say more about using chess to connect with kids.
Okay. Well, basically, and again, and this comes to the equity issue, I think that we heard a lot about this morning in the culture of a school. Chess is one of those games where culture doesn't matter, boys don't matter, gender doesn't matter, anything like that. Anybody can come to the table and learn to play chess. But you also see kids' personalities show up. Okay. Are they very reticent? Do they not like to talk? That's okay. They can still play chess and still do a lot of thinking. So if kids are very, very quiet, and again, I worked with a lot of Native American kids, and I would have 75 of them in a cafeteria, and I was the only adult. And I was able to manage that well because number one, I was prepared. I had chess boards. I had the pieces in baggies like this. I had a sheet of paper by each game that says what the mini game was, whether it was Pawn Parade, and we had about 13 different mini games. And then after that, we would have some power move games. And a power move game gets a little bit more complicated where basically you've got just the king and the queen, and you would use little strips of paper on the boards to show basically, hey, the queen can only move this way and this way, but she has corralled your pieces deeper inside of that. Okay? And so you can get into chess, and then if you want, chess can go to, competitions, a chess tournament in schools, anything like that. But to me, what was most important was I used it kind of as a screening into the gifted program. Kids would come and maybe they were never even referred by teachers, but I could tell they could really plan ahead. They could really see their moves and remember how the pieces moved. And it was also a very good screening tool for our gifted program. Does that kind of answer that, Amy?
One more question, Kathy. In terms of the chessboard, is it just a standard chessboard is fine, or is it need to be special in any sort of way?
No, a standard chessboard is very fine. No problem like that. Now let me show you how I showed it. This is a candle and my iPhone and a bell on top to just kind of balance it. And I've got the chessboard on a chair right here. Now, when we were practicing with Lynn, because she was up in Colorado, where Robin is right here in my home, what she would do, she had her own chessboard, and we would have to talk about the notation B4 to B6, A3 to A2. That in itself can be a challenge and a learning activity in itself. But I find that the way to manage playing chess over Zoom, you could have 16 kids in here, put them in breakout rooms. And then also, if they don't have a real chessboard, you can, and in our handouts, I've got a picture of a chessboard that you can use as a chessboard. And then you can use pennies for pawns. If you don't have the actual pieces, kids can go outside and gather rocks or gather parts of leaves or pebbles or something else to make their chessboard. So don't say that you're going to have to go out and tell families you're going to have to go out and buy all this stuff, because let's get creative, and kids are really great about making even their own chess pieces. And we've got in our handout, a pattern that they could even cut out a king or a queen or something like that. But I find that coins, a lot of people will have a collection of pennies that they can use on something like that.
Yeah.
Any other
So,
questions,
so
Chris?
Kathy and I were looking at,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Go ahead, Amy.
Kathy and I were discussing what were some of the skills that are intrinsic, that are built into chess. One is, I think everyone is desperate right now to be interacting with others in a structured, positive way. And to set up chess, the rules of chess are established. There are norms. It's like cultural norms or social contracts. There are ways that we move. And it was interesting. Kathy in the role play was clearly more concerned with like the rules and looking to me as the teacher with the authority, which is very common for a second grader, of course, to look at me and say, "Oh, teacher, is it okay? Do we need to name which ones?" Whereas Robin sounded like he didn't really want to do that. He wanted more to move and play. You could tell I was kind of encouraging Kathy and Robin, although you didn't get that fussy. But kids can get pretty fussy if they're losing or if somebody does take their part. And I thought it was interesting when Kathy said, "Oh, can I take that one back, that move back?" And Robin said, "I don't know in chess, can you really take a move back, Kathy, or no?"
Well, technically in chess, if you remove your hand from the piece, the move is over. And when I had kids and teaching them, I really was strong on that. I said, okay, here are the rules, because I think kids need to learn at a certain point, the rules are here. And in this chess, this is the situation we have. And if you take your hand off, your move is over. You might regret your move, but I think learning for them to learn that regret, and can I play again and not make that mistake, it's a chance for them to fail forward, to fail,
Yeah.
and then they'll be able to learn from that failure.
Yeah, the consequences, it's the natural consequence of taking your hand off is that you can't then move the piece. I think one could have had a discussion then, well, what's the intention of the game? Is the intention to have fun? Is the intention to make some new rules? Is the intention to learn to play chess? Is the intention, so in your mind and in the students' minds, it seemed like they were developing some kind of relationship, the Kathy and Robin in the game. And so maybe they wanted to, or maybe they didn't want to, that to me is, it's an important decision to make. I think the consequential thinking, I agree. I think right now kids need some predictability. They need structure. They need to know the guidelines that are existing, because with us out of school, for many, many children, school provides that sanctuary of predictability, reliability. And so, yeah, to be clear about what are the guidelines and that we're going to follow them is probably a good option. So one of those things was, we thought it's structured, it's predictable. Chess provides you with an opportunity to slow down, to take a pause, to kind of collect yourself. It gives you time. You have to think. I mean, if you get out of the reactive mind and into the thinking, into the critical thinking mind, that part of your mind.
Okay, now we have,
You make,
go ahead, Amy, finish
yeah,
it.
go ahead. Right, you make choices based on known rules of engagement. And, you know, that's an important thing to be able to do. You've created, yeah, you look ahead rather than react. And so you're planning ahead. Yeah, so those are some of the very obvious connections between chess and social emotional learning.
Well,
There's a
and to segue again for more advanced players, because I see that Renee asked that question, I do want to share with you, Renee, and for those of others for advanced players, we do have another, whoa, okay, trust this computer again. I do want to show an advanced game for advanced players, where the goal in this game is to get a checkmate. This is called the Queen Rook game. And again, for beginners, you could use your corral here, basically, on what the queen would do. Okay, but okay, white goes first. So the goal of this game is to get the black king in checkmate. Okay, so Robin, you're moving. So he's got to get me in checkmate, and here's my king. Actually, that wasn't my king. Let me there's my king. So I'm going to, the best I could do is stalemate. Okay, and so if Robin is the kid that he is a good chess player, but I'm kind of a beginner and I move pretty impulsive, because I would see a lot of impulsive behavior sometimes in chess. And so, oh, is this your king? Okay. Okay, that's your king, so I'm going to move here. Yeah. Okay, your move. Okay. And I'm going to move right here. And then I can't, yeah, I can move here. You see, can he get me in checkmate or not? And so you keep going to where there's a stalemate. So he got me in checkmate right here, right? I can't move. Well, I could move right here, actually. Okay. Okay. And now I can't move anywhere, but I'm not in checkmate. So that's a stalemate. So really, in actuality, it's kind of like I won. Okay, which is really tough for good chess players to admit defeat, because a stalemate in something like this, when they definitely have the advantage, is kind of a big defeat for them to get. Does that answer that question, Renee? So we have a lot of power moves like this that if you don't have a lot of time, because I know chess takes a lot of time for full games, and a lot of times in schools, well, not a lot of times, almost every time, you don't have that time. So if you have the kids for 25 minutes, you could still do a power game like this, which I think is pretty powerful. Amy?
So did you notice anything about personalities? Of course, if we were really there with the children, or if you knew these children over time, what might you start noticing about their social skills, their emotional skills, to regulate themselves, to get along with others, to interact constructively with one another?
Well, first of all, I found out that they really, really wanted to come. Like, I would never, ever try to cancel chess club, because that was the one time in the week that they wanted to come, but they also really liked the routines and the rituals. Like at the end of the game, the end of the club, they would all bring their pieces and everything to my box, and I just had a cardboard box I stored them in, and we would all get into a circle and jump up and yell, "Chess is the best." And then I would let them run out the door or something like that. But they really loved the rituals of starting. And so I gave them a format, and then what I really found out, when they're into it, they were very engaged, because I also gave them choices. If they were good chess players and I was teaching other kids Pawn Parade, they didn't have to play that many games. They could get another one, or they could quickly go to a full game if they had a partner that knew how all the pieces moved. But then sometimes if I wanted to really stress math that day, all the pieces have value. So the pawns are 10 cents and the queen is 90 cents. Of course, the king is priceless. But I would say first to $1 wins. Start with the full game, and whoever captures $1.50 or $2 wins the game. So that in itself puts a whole nother layer on top of the regular chess game.
Learning to regulate your emotions is a core part of playing chess, I would think. I made a mistake. Do I lose it? Do I swipe all the chess pieces off? Do I say something ugly to the opponent? Do I stomp off and tell the teacher that there was cheating? Or do I learn to navigate my emotions and say, okay, what was my intention here? Okay, let's see. Okay, back, concentrate, focus, regulate, come back and play. And if you're trying to make a friend, if you want to have a nice time, then that's also an opportunity to make your choices. Do I mutter something under my breath to the child across from me? Do I congratulate and say, hey, good job? Woo, that was a good move. I didn't see that coming. We have so many choices. And it seems to me that chess is a really good opportunity to exercise those and then stop and reflect. So was the game fun? Well, yeah, it was fun. I got kind of mad when I made that mistake, but I'm glad I got to meet Robin today. That was fun. He's a better player than I am, and yet here I actually ended up winning the game, and he was nice about it. He congratulated me. He thanked me. We had a nice time.
Well, and what's wonderful about teachers, you don't have to know how to play chess to do this. I am not a good chess player. When I first started, I would tell the kids, I was doing with fourth graders, I said, if you beat me, I'll take you to lunch. At that time, you could put a kid in your car and run down to the burger joint. But, and so I am not a very good chess player because I tend to move fast. I'm high energy, and maybe I don't want to sit and really contemplate 3 or 4 moves ahead, which I think really good chess players have to do. They have that forward thinking skill. But so that's why I like mini chess, is I don't have to be a good chess player myself. I don't have to even be confident how the pieces move, because each mini game kind of tells you how the pieces move, and the kids really jump on it as young as, I've done this with kindergartners all the way up through middle school. Usually by the time high school kids are, some of them are in regular chess clubs in the community. But I do want to tell this one story, and then we'll definitely take questions and hear from some of our other people. This summer I was out on Navajo Lake, and it was about 5 o'clock, and it was getting late, and we saw a boat in the middle of the lake that had its engine hood up. So we went out there and, hello, can we help you? Yeah, our engine died. It was a man, a woman, 2 small children, and it looked like the mother-in-law. So we throw him a rope, and the minute I throw him a rope, the guy looks at me, and he's a grown man, of course, and he said, oh, I know you. You're Kathy Price. And I said, yes. And he said, oh, you taught me chess at Nabaani. And he went on to tell a great story on how chess is one of the best things in his life. And he now coaches chess at Aztec High School. And he just went on and on that one chess club really made a difference in his life and making a difference in other lives. So as teachers, we don't know what seeds we're going to plant. I had no clue who he was. Even when he said his name, it didn't ring a bell because he wasn't in my gifted program. Yet still, it was something that made a difference, that he went on to impact the world. And isn't that why we're teachers? So that just really made me feel really good. I love that story.
We do have one.
It's a wonderful story.
Okay.
Where do you find your resources for the mini chess games? Do you have a particular website you go to? Is there a book?
Yeah. So actually, and that was the last slide that I don't even need to pick it up, but we've got a handout. I tried to just, when Amy was talking, go to the chat and put our handout in the chat, but I'm not able to do that, Chris. So somehow I'm going to have to get to InMag. the resources. But on Teachers Pay Teachers, I have a website, and Lynn Zupans' husband and Andre and I put all these games together called Mini Chess. An easy and fun way to teach chess, and it's available on Teachers Pay Teachers. And Amy had also written a book called Choose to Change that are also on Teachers Pay Teachers. And so it's a pretty inexpensive book, and I'm willing also to give anybody all kinds of mini games if you want. Like I said, our goal in this is to get this as something very viable for teachers to use in this time. And I think it's really good if I had a class, which right now I don't have a class, I would have a mini game and I would have the kids go and teach someone in their household. Hey, get someone else to play Pawn Parade with you. It might be your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, or play against yourself if you want to. But I think the more connections we could get with actual kids making those relationships and using chess as a vehicle. Amy, thoughts on that?
I wanted to highlight what the question about using it electronically versus the physical pieces. And again, I think not only whether people have the access to the computer and are able to, have the access to the internet to be able to download and use. So there is something wonderful about the physicality of picking up the pieces and having them move and seeing that so explicitly, the mechanics of it so explicitly. I think that's a really good idea to engage all those different parts of ourselves. And again, I do think that what is being highlighted right now in the pandemic and the schools being virtual is how important it is that we connect. So we connect in order to instruct. We connect in order to teach. We connect in order to play. And Kathy, I wanted to ask, how did you start your classes when you'd have 75 kids come running in the cafeteria? Did you have them sort of pause? Did they pick a partner? Was there any kind of ritual that started the game?
Yeah, well, I would usually do a quick check-in on what piece do you feel like today? And we were going to do that as our check-in here, but then we thought, well, maybe some teachers here don't know anything about the pieces. So you have to have some, at least know the difference between a rook and a knight. But that's how it would always be. Like when you come in, how do you feel today? Do you feel like the little pawn, not very powerful? Or are you the big, tall queen? Or you the king, you're really old, you're feeble, you can't move very fast, but you're the most important piece also. So that's usually how we always did a quick check-in. And then I would say, oh, walk in like your piece next week. And then I would see horses galloping in. They loved that, of course. And the knight. So that's a fun check-in. But again, Amy, because we want to kind of close this with the three important things that to include in any lesson, whether it's a chess lesson, whether it's a math lesson, a reading lesson, but three things how you can bring in that SEL to any lesson. Amy?
Yeah. So you want to have, again, this is from Castle. Last year, they were really focusing on this, and I think it's true. Some kind of welcoming ritual. Like Kathy was saying with the children in the cafeteria, what kind of peace do you feel? So you take a moment and you check in with yourself. Today we did a more extended check-in with what landscape would describe. Something to welcome you in. If you're in a physical classroom, some of you may have shook hands, stood at the doorway and welcomed your children. Good morning, come in, Kathy, come in, Robin. Hi, hey, you have a new haircut. Checking in with the children. Then some kind of experiential lesson. So something where you actually have an experience. For example, I can imagine Kathy felt a little bit when she was playing the role with the pawns of the second grader. She might have felt a little miffed, like, wait, I want to take that part back. Why did he get my part? Some feeling, some emotion, some experience. And then the third component is a checkout, an optimistic closure. So, we can often close a class like, oh, what did we get done? Okay, don't forget your homework tomorrow. We do that kind of closing, but let's do an optimistic closing. Like, hey, what was something that you accomplished today? What surprised you today? Or something that my old favorite is to say things you're grateful for. So if you would just on a piece of paper to the side, just jot down 10 things that you feel grateful for. And they can be anything in your life. Try to be specific. and detailed and somewhat nuanced. So not like I'm glad for health. I'm glad that today I woke up and I feel fresh and strong, you know, some detail. So just jot down. And then when you finish jotting down 10, if you would in the chat, just type in 2 things that you feel grateful for.
And one of the things on Zoom that I notice in the Zoom trainings and that I've done is wait time is easier in a live classroom than it is on Zoom. And so that silence we tend to want to fill. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to purposely be quiet and start jotting my things down and reading the chat.
Kathy, you're muted.
Oh, I know. I tend to talk. So Amy, closing thoughts, and then we'll take any final questions.
I was inspired yesterday on this conference with Castle by the commitment of a relatively small but growing group of people to bring into the system, the institutions of education, this focus on the need to connect in an authentic way with our students, with all of our students, and to welcome all of their identities into our classrooms, and to get to be genuinely curious and learn who they are. And the tremendous potential of doing that and of creating a more just world. I feel sometimes quite actually guilty and sad that I didn't recognize the institutionalization of racism in our school systems. I feel remiss. I feel crazy that I didn't notice it. And the minute my eyes were opened to it, I feel quite responsible. So I think I'm really grateful for this hard and difficult last 6 months in our country, and that the opening of our eyes. And I'm deeply grateful for fellow educators who see the promise and potential of education to create a more just, equitable world. So thank you all for spending the time with us.
Okay, and are there any closing questions that we can answer for anybody?
So one question that we had is about how to afford, right? And we know that buying chess pieces and boards for 75 students does not come cheap. So do you have any suggestions on like fundraising or getting donations or anything like that?
You know, one thing you can do is do a community ask. There tends to be a lot of families whose kids are gone that might have chessboards in their closet, a lot of checkers. You'll get a lot of checkers, okay? And so, but a checkerboard is the same as a chessboard. You can also photocopy the chessboard. Like I said, in the handout, I've got a chessboard you can run off. I liked the ones, this one that I showed today is a plastic or plastic one. You can also have kids make them, okay, with just out of cloth and colors. Kids can get very creative. So yeah, I would definitely, like I said, I like the ones that folded in half so that less storage, and then the best way for the pieces is in bags. Now, when you have a lot of kids in a classroom, you're always going to have missing pieces. So I would always have a bag with missing pieces. I would pour it in the lid of the box, and as kids saying, oh, I'm missing a rook or I'm missing a queen, they'd come up and trade. You'd also have kids get really the perfectionists. Uh-oh, these pawns are actually different pawns, but they're still pawns. And so some kids would always want the kind of pawns from one set versus another that are a slightly different color. And so you can tell a lot about a kid's personality just on how they deal with setting up their pieces also.
So Kathy, on that example, use that example of a way of like how you could turn that into a quick social lesson. The two pawns look a little different. One child's upset by that, but how would you turn that into a quick equity lesson?
You know, because some kids, they want order. They might not have order at their home, but this is something that they have control over. So if they can control, and I would let them come up and search through all their pieces until they got something, because that was important for them. I wouldn't say, oh, well, that's stupid, just take these, just play with them. I would honor their feelings of that and that's okay. You know, I want someone who's going to do brain surgery on me. I want someone really concerned about those differences. So it's just a part of those kids' personality that's another window into you getting a better relationship with them.